Hey everyone, we're the Andson Foundation. We're going to be going through Unit 1 today, which would be financial planning and the first step into the financial planning, financial education process. Unit 2 will be budgeting, as you can see over here, and we're just going to use this as a segue into budgeting. So this will actually be broken up into 2 lessons to make it a little more watchable on YouTube. When we're in the classroom setting, the first thing we're going to do with the students is get them to open up a little bit, get out of their comfort zone. We're going to be talking to them and having them go around and introduce themselves, their name, age, their likes and dislikes. And one of the questions that we really like to ask is, what would you do with an extra $100? You'd be surprised to hear their answers. Most often than not, it is, spending it on something like clothes or shoes or whatnot, but sometimes it is savings, which is always great to hear. Now, when we're going through the financial planning, there are these steps: setting SMART goals, analyzing the information, create a plan from that information, implement that plan, and then modify that plan as you go along. Before we get into financial planning, we're going to take a minute to explain to them the difference between wants versus needs, and how sometimes we need to set aside some of those wants we have for our more important needs, and just learning to deal with that. Now, I've embedded a YouTube video in here that we would be using in the classroom setting. You can obviously view that on our YouTube channel. I'm not going to spend time to go through that now. Now, when you're setting up your financial plan, you want to set goals for yourself, develop a plan to reach those goals, and then execute and see where that takes you. But really, those first few goals you need to set, those need to be SMART goals. SMART is an acronym for specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-bound. Starting with specific, if you need to cut out pictures to post up on your locker or in your room somewhere to give you an everyday vision or sight of what you're setting your goals on to make it more tangible, do that. Cutting pictures out, visiting items that you want, keeping up with the latest trends, looking online, reading magazines, and that sort of thing. For whatever interests you, do it. Making sure that these goals are measurable. You want to use real dollar amounts. The last thing you want to do is know that something costs about this much or approximately this much and not be actively trying to reach that dollar amount. When you have measurable goals and you can say it's going to take me 10 weeks, it's going to take me 20 weeks to do something, you're going to be a lot more capable of achieving that. Although we tell kids all the time, teens all the time, we want to reach for the stars, do the most you can. When you're setting these goals, let's make sure they're attainable. Let's make sure they're in your grasp. It's always a good idea to set those goals for yourself that are going to push you further and further. But at the same time, let's make it realistic enough that you will achieve it. Realistic goals. When we talk about that, again, it's nice to think of these glamorous things that we'd like to do with our lives, and that's fine. But there's also something to be said about those that put a plan into action and are capable of achieving it. So sometimes, just like the wants versus needs, you need to put aside those glamorous ideas and do what you need to do to achieve your goal. Make sure it's realistic for yourself. And then finally, you want it to be time-bound. Just like there's deadlines in school, there's deadlines with work. Deadlines are important. It gives us an end, it gives us closure, and it gives us something to shoot for. A short-term goal, something that might take you a month or 6 weeks or something like that, those are those goals that you're going to be setting all the time for yourself. Something that might be a little different might be an intermediate goal. For instance, you've really got to budget yourself and set yourself up for a longer period of time. And then finally, the long-term goals. This might be working a summer job for that car, for that first year of college, whatever the case may be. This is something that you really need to be committed to be able to see it through the end. So after you set these goals, let's analyze information. When financially planning, that information is going to be, where does my money go? And something that really helps with this is a personal spending log. In the classroom setting, we're going to go through this, but it's as simple as laying out the days of the week, the money's coming in and the money's going out. It seems very simple and seems like something we can do in our head, but sometimes it's really helpful to see that on paper. Something to think about. After you analyze this information, it's time to put it together a plan. Now, a lot of these steps in creating a plan are things that we do unconsciously. In this case, though, we're going to go through them. It's not that difficult to understand. First of all, you identify your goal, whatever you want to achieve, whatever your financial plan is. Establish the criteria to get there. You want to examine your options. What routes can you take with that criteria to get to that goal? Weigh your pros versus cons, weigh your options. What's A versus B? And this is kind of where you want to talk about opportunity cost. What do I lose when I choose A over B? Really paying attention to that makes you an educated shopper, makes you better at budgeting, and it's really going to help you in your adult life. So then you make your decision. And of course, now it's time to evaluate those results, and how we're going to do that is by implementing the plan. Now, when you're out there, there's some 3 R's and there's 3 S's that we would like to spend a moment on. First of all, reality, responsibility, and restraint. Reality hurts sometimes. It's nice to always have food on the table and always have new clothes and that sort of thing. But when you're out there for yourself, doing for yourself and budgeting, sometimes reality is going to change the way your spending habits work and your view of your money that you have. You're going to show a lot more responsibility and a lot more restraint. What that means is, even though it was perfectly healthy for you to think for yourself and to spend your money on yourself and only yourself before, now all of a sudden there might be a family to think about, or there will be a family in the next few years, and you're going to have to really identify those needs first once and again show some restraint. The next part of that is the idea of saving, spending, and sharing. Savings is something we all need to do. We're going to talk about the concept of making sure that you pay yourself every month just as much as you pay all those other bills you have. Spending is also a good thing. We want you to be a more discerning spender. We want you to be able to use those dollars the most to your advantage. And then sharing is a huge thing as well. Sharing with your loved ones, sharing with complete strangers, sharing with friends and family. Those are all really important things to do that, again, you probably haven't had to think about too much as teens. We want to introduce you to those concepts. Now, just because you've implemented a great plan and you've really thought it out, doesn't mean you're done. The fact is just like this beautiful Mount Rushmore here, no plan gets to be set in stone, and in fact it needs to change with you. So, when you go through this financial planning lesson, and obviously there's a lot more to it when we've got the manual out and we're working through it on a one-on-one or in a classroom setting, this is something that's really going to get you ready for budgeting, which is one of the most important lessons you can learn for your adult life. And we're actually going to stop here with this YouTube lesson. I'm going to start another one just to break this up and make it a little more manageable. But catch the next lesson. It will be on budgeting. I think you guys will enjoy it. Something that we always like to share is that if you like this lesson, if you have any questions about it, or if you'd like to get involved or figure out how to get the NEFE program implemented where you are, you can always give us send us an email or give us a call. www.andson.org. You can get all of our contact information, or email us at info@andson.org. Thank you.